This is the talk on molecular compounds. So up to this point we've done, everything we have done has been an ionic compound. So molecular compounds are a little bit more common in pharmaceuticals and medicines and our bodies as well, where the ionic ones are kind of more common in nature, sometimes as pollutants, sometimes as salts. They serve different purposes. So with molecular naming, it's almost easier to tell. Now I'm going to first introduce this idea of electronegativity. And the only reason I'm doing this is so that you know which element to list first when you're naming them. And so if you look at the periodic table here, the less electronegative is up in this top left corner. The more electronegative is the reverse of this then. So how we do this is we take a prefix and we express that based on the subscript of the element. So for example, water is H2O. So we would name this first part as dihydrogen, since we have two of them here. So it's the prefix di. And then the second part, it continues to stay the same as oxide, except now we just have one of them, so we would call this monoxide. Notice we keep that IDE ending just like we did with the ionic compounds. So here's a few practice ones. So this is how we would say this is monocarbon dioxide. However, excuse me here, monocarbon dioxide. So the monocarbon refers to it being a 1 here under the carbon, and the di means 2 under this oxygen. The monocarbon part we can drop, however. Since that's the first element listed in the formula, we can just list it as just plain carbon dioxide. Now in the second one here, we do have 2 nitrogens, so we would say this is dinitrogen. And the 4 here is pentaoxide. So notice again, we're keeping that IDE ending at the end of these. P4O10, if we go back here, 4 is tetra, deca is 10. So we have tetraphosphorus, deca with the oxygen, deca oxide. Here's the last one. This is simple because, again, we would have monocarbon, but we just call that carbon since it's mono and it's the first one listed. And we have 1 oxygen, so we still call that monoxide. So this is a common chemical you've probably heard of, carbon monoxide. So here's carbon dioxide, dinitrogen, tetraoxide, tetraphosphorus, decaoxide, and carbon monoxide for our terms there. So here's a case where we can mix this up. So here is an ionic one. Here's an ionic one. And so if we go through and name these, you can see this, what it looks like. And that's where we're going to stop for now. So these are, make sure you go on and take a look. I'll have a few practice naming ones here for the molecular compounds. Go on and check that quiz and have that done for Monday.